Good day, learner. My name is Ademola Oyetunji from Osun State. Today, I'm going to take you through the characteristic of sound wave. But before that, let me just ask this question. Have you ever heard a sound that is pleasant to your ear or a sound that is not pleasant to your ear? Or simply put, have you ever been able to differentiate between a sound produced by a construction company and a sound produced by a musical instrument? Remember how I explained, sound can be audible, it can be inaudible. Sound can be pleasant, it can be unpleasant. Sound can be loud, and sound can be low in loudness. In Audibles, we are going to take you through a video where I'm going to show you the characteristic of sound wave. Good afternoon and let's go. Yeah, sound can either be regarded as music or noise. Music is a sound of regular frequency or constant frequency. For example, when you are clapping at an interval of 1, 1 or 2, 2, it becomes regular and constant with a frequency. In that case, it becomes a music. Noise, on the other hand, are sound of irregular frequencies. Somebody is shouting here, another person is singing there. When you combine the two frequencies, they are irregular frequency and that constitutes a noise. So sound are characterized by the following: pitch, loudness and intensity, quality or timbre of light. As you can see in the diagram, we categorize sound as pleasant to hear and unpleasant to hear. Pleasant to hear become music, unpleasant to hear is like a noise. So we give an example of music as sound of musical instruments produced by our different musical instruments like talking drum, guitar, piano, etc. etc. While noise can look like the sound of the horns of buses or that of a siren or ambulances. Pitch is a characteristic of sound, and this characteristic of sound is determined by its frequency. It is telling us how loud or how low a note is. A sound note is high if its amplitude is high, and a sound note is low if its amplitude is low. A sound pitch is a quality that is based on the frequency that is perceived by the human ear. Pitch of a note is the characteristic of a note which enables one to differentiate a high note from a low note. Pitch depends on the frequency of the sound wave. As you can see in the diagram, the higher the amplitude, the higher the pitch of the sound, and the lower the amplitude, the lower the pitch of the sound. High frequency means high pitch and low frequency means low pitch. Loudness and intensity. Loudness is the magnitude of the sensation resulting from the sound reaching the ear. This depends on the intensity of the sound wave which reaches the listener ear. When the amplitude is looking like the one you have in this is a quieter and this is a louder, which means the higher the amplitude, the louder the sound. Intensity of the sound is the rate of flow of energy per second per unit area perpendicular to the direction of propagation of the sound wave. Loudness depends on intensity, and loudness of a sound depends on the square of the amplitude of the sound wave. As you can see here, the amplitude is higher and the sound is loud. Quality or timbre. Quality is the characteristic of a note which distinguishes it from another note of the same pitch and loudness produced by another instrument. If the sound of the same loudness and pitch is produced by a piano, and the same sound of the same pitch and loudness is produced by a violin, the ability of the listener to differentiate the sound played by the piano and that one played by the flute is what we call the quality of that sound, is the characteristic that enable one to differentiate the instrument used in play the sound or in producing the sound. Timbre is the characteristic of sound which depend on the material through which it is produced. It depends on the overtone or harmonic. It also enables the listener to differentiate or distinguish between different instruments in the same category. If you can see in the diagram, we are having the tuning fork, the flute, the human voice, and the violin. And when you see the waveform of these, they look differently, and that is the characteristic of the sound that we call the quality of the sound. In the second image, you can see the tuning fork, the clarinet, and the trumpet. Even if they have the same loudness and the same pitch, you can easily distinguish the sound produced by tuning fork from that of the clarinet, from that of the trumpet. If you can do that, then there is a characteristic of sound which we call the quality. Self-assessment. Mention three characteristics of sound. 2. Explain the characteristic of sound you mention in your own language. 3. What factor does the characteristic of sound depend? 60 seconds. Conclusion. We are able to conclude in this video by stating that music is a sound of regular frequency. No doubt about that. Noise is a sound of irregular frequency. We are able to establish that. Pitch of sound depends on the frequency. Loudness and intensity depends on amplitude. And quality of timbre depends on overtone or harmonic. Once again, I am Ademola Oyetunji, a feature